She had 30 days to live. The billionaire forced the factory worker, who called him a terrible boss, into marriage. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The factory floor is loud enough to swallow apologies. Conveyors hum, metal clatters, and the air smells like oil and hot steel. Under the fluorescent lights, a line of workers stands shoulder to shoulder, eyes down, hands moving fast. She has worked here for years, long shifts measured in aching feet and missed dinners. Today, she stops her hands. The billionaire owner is walking the floor with executives and managers in tailored suits. Shoes that have never known dust glide past stations like they own the air itself. When a supervisor snaps at a coworker for slowing the line, something in her breaks. She steps forward before fear can catch up. "This is not leadership," she says, voice steady, louder than she expects. Heads turn. The supervisor freezes. The billionaire looks at her for the first time. "You cut corners, you squeeze people, and then you call it efficiency," she continues. "That makes you a terrible boss." Silence drops hard. The machines keep moving, but the room holds its breath. A manager whispers her name like a warning. The billionaire's expression does not change. He nods once, curt, and the group moves on. Everyone knows what comes next. An hour later, a message flashes on her phone. "Report to the executive office." She wipes her hands on her jeans and walks the long corridor where the walls turn from scuffed paint to polished glass. Each step sounds like a countdown. Inside, the office is quiet, carpet thick, windows wide. The billionaire stands by the desk, jacket off, sleeves rolled. He does not invite her to sit. "You embarrassed me," he says. His voice is calm, controlled. The calm is worse. "You challenged me in front of my people." She meets his eyes. "I told the truth." "A beat? You think honesty protects you?" She swallows. "I think it should." He turns, opens a folder, and slides it across the desk. She expects termination papers. Severance at best. Instead, she sees a contract. Not employment, marriage. "I am not firing you," he says. "I need you to sign this." Her laugh escapes before she can stop it. "This is not funny. It is not a joke." He taps a line with his finger. 30 days. She reads, confused. Appearances, public events, private boundaries, compensation listed in neat numbers that feel unreal. Why me? He exhales, the first crack in his armor. "My grandmother is dying. The doctors say she has 30 days left. She has one last wish. She wants to see me married." Her anger falters. She thinks of her own family, of hospital rooms, and thin smiles. Then finds someone who wants that. "I did," he says. "They want money. You do not." He meets her gaze again. "You already told me what you think of me. That is why I trust you to play the role without falling in love with my name." Her hands tremble. This is leverage dressed as mercy. She sees the trap and the lifeline at the same time. If I say no, he does not threaten her job. He does not have to. The silence does it for him. She flips the pages, jaw tight. He arches an eyebrow. "After 30 days, she says, voice firm, "you will stand in front of this company and apologize. Not to me, to the workers." 2014, he considers. Calculating costs that cannot be measured. Finally, he nods. Agreed. The pen is heavy in her hand. Ink meets paper. The contract closes with a soft thud. As she leaves the office, the factory noise rushes back in. Nothing looks different. Everything has changed. The contract sits between them like a quiet threat. She reads it again, slower this time, tracing the margins as if the paper might bite back. 30 days. Appearances only, public events, private boundaries. Compensation listed in clean lines that do not belong to her life. Outside the office windows, trucks idle and forklifts beep. The factory keeps breathing without her. You have questions, the billionaire says. She does not look up. I have consequences. He nods once. So do I. Her phone buzzes in her pocket. She does not answer, but she knows who it is. Her sister. Calling from the clinic. The insurance ran out last week. The bills did not. She thinks of the rent notice taped to the refrigerator, the numbers circled in red like a warning flare. She thinks of how fast the word fired travels in a town like this. If I agree, she says, this ends in 30 days. Yes. And my job? You keep it. She finally meets his eyes. No retaliation. Not for me, not for anyone on that line. He considers her, measuring resolve the way he measures risk. I will put it in writing. I will put it in writing. He adds a page. She watches his pen move, confident, decisive. This is the world he knows. Ink creates reality. There is one more condition, she says. His eyebrow lifts, just enough. Go on. After 30 days, she says, you will stand in front of your company and apologize. You will say you were wrong to ignore safety complaints. You will say, workers are not numbers. The room goes still. For a moment, she thinks he will laugh. He does not. He looks away, out at the factory floor far below, a grid of motion and sweat. That is not small, he says. Neither is marriage, she replies. He exhales, slow. Agreed. The word lands heavier than the contract. She signs. By evening, a car waits outside her apartment. Black. Quiet. The driver opens the door like this is normal. It is not. She rides past streets she knows, into neighborhoods she does not. The houses growing farther apart. The lawns wider. The lights warmer. The gate opens without a sound. Inside, the house feels like a museum after hours. Clean lines, art she does not recognize. Silence thick enough to hear herself think. He hands her a folder with a schedule. Dinner tomorrow. A family visit. A ring. A ring, she repeats. For appearances, he says. She takes it, surprised by the weight. I will not lie to your grandmother. You will not need to, he says. Just be kind. They drive to the hospital the next morning. The air smells like antiseptic and coffee. Machines hum softly, patient, forgiving. His grandmother is smaller than she imagined, wrapped in blankets, eyes sharp despite the tubes. So this is her, the older woman says, voice thin but steady. He smiles. And it is not the one he uses at work. Grandma. The older woman takes her hand, warm and firm. You work with your hands, she says. I can tell. Yes, ma'am. Good, she says. He needs that. It's a divot. On the way back, he is quiet. The city slides by in clean angles. She likes you, he says, as if surprised. She sees people. She replies. The first public event comes fast. Cameras. Smiles. Questions sharpened like knives. She stands beside him, shoulders back, breathing steady. When a reporter sneers about her background, she answers without flinching. Work teaches you things money does not, she says. He hears the room shift. Later, on the balcony, the night cools her skin. You did not have to do that, he says. I did, she answers. That is the deal. He studies her, searching for the angle. He does not find one. In her borrowed bedroom, she places the ring on the nightstand and stares at it until the city lights blur. 30 days. A job saved. A family watched over. She tells herself this is temporary. Downstairs, he stands alone, contract folded in his hand, realizing that control feels different when someone refuses to be owned. The next morning begins with rules. They sit at the long kitchen table where nothing is out of place. Sunlight cuts across marble that has never known a coffee ring. He slides a single page toward her, typed, precise. Boundaries, he says. So there is no confusion. She reads while he speaks, his voice even. Separate bedrooms. No physical intimacy. No personal questions unless asked. Appear together when scheduled. Absolute discretion. This is a marriage with guardrails, he finishes. She sets the paper down. You forgot one. He waits. No public humiliation, she says. Not for me. Not for anyone who works for you. His jaw tightens. That is not a boundary. That is a demand. It is a line, she replies. And I will not cross mine if you keep crossing theirs. Silence stretches. Somewhere, a clock ticks, loud in the quiet house. He reaches for a pen and adds a sentence. She watches the ink dry. Anything else? He asks. Yes, she says. If your grandmother asks, I will not lie. I will not invent a love story. You will not need to, he says again. She prefers honesty. So do I. She almost laughs at that, but she does not. A stylist arrives before noon with racks of clothes that look like they belong to someone else. The woman smiles too brightly and measures her without asking. She steps back, uncomfortable, until the billionaire raises a hand. Nothing that changes who she is, he says. She works, she moves. The stylist nods, chastened. They choose simple dresses, flat shoes, colors that do not shout. When she looks in the mirror, she recognizes herself. That matters more than the price tags. The ring comes next. He opens the box. Careful. Like this part deserves reverence. It is elegant, not loud. He does not kneel. For appearances, he says. She takes it. The diamond catches light and throws it back, sharp. I will wear it when required. He inclines his head. Thank you. They rehearse the story on the drive to the family dinner. Not how they met, but how they speak. Where to stand, when to smile. He corrects her posture once, then stops himself. Do not let them interrupt you, he says. They will try. The dinner is warm and crowded, laughter filling corners of a house older than both of them. Cousins glance at her shoes. An aunt asks about her work and frowns when she answers plainly. She does not flinch. When someone jokes about luck, she smiles and says, luck is showing up every day. The table quiets. His grandmother watches her with approval. After dessert, his grandmother pulls her aside. He has walls, she says softly. Do not mistake them for strength. She considers the old woman, the tubes hidden beneath scarves. I will not, she says, but I will not knock them down for him. That is wise, the older woman says, squeezing her hand. You belong here, Gatim. On the drive home, he is silent again. The city lights streak past like a timeline he cannot control. You did well, he says finally. I did what we agreed, she replies. That night, she places her suitcase in the guest room. The bed is too large, the sheets too smooth. She sets the ring on the nightstand, exactly where it will not be lost. From the hallway, she hears him pause, then continue to his room. Separate doors close. In the dark, she listens to a house learning new footsteps. 30 days feels suddenly very long. Downstairs, he stands at the window, phone in hand, canceling meetings he would never have canceled before. He thinks of the way she answered the aunt, the steadiness in her voice, the absence of performance. For the first time since the contract was signed, he wonders if boundaries are meant to be tested. Upstairs, she stares at the ceiling and repeats the rules to herself like a prayer. Temporary, professional, controlled. Neither of them sleeps easily. Morning arrives with motion. The house does not slow down for feelings. Staff move quietly. Coffee appears without being asked for. Schedules populate screens. She learns the rhythm by watching, by listening, by not taking up more space than necessary. He notices. He notices everything. They leave together, side by side, not touching. Cameras wait at the gate. She lifts her chin the way she learned on the factory floor, steady and unafraid. He opens the car door. Flashbulbs catch the moment. It looks like intimacy. It is choreography. The days blur into a montage of adjustments. She learns where to stand at events so she is not blocked by shoulders or drowned by noise. She learns which smiles are currency and which are traps. She learns that silence can be a weapon, and so can kindness. At a luncheon, a donor makes a joke about hands getting dirty. She smiles and says, Hands that work build everything you enjoy. The table laughs. He watches the room recalibrate. At home, the differences are louder. He eats late, precise, efficient. She cooks early when she can, simple meals that smell like comfort. One night, she leaves a bowl on the counter for him. He eats it standing up, then sits down without realizing why. He does not thank her. He does not criticize. It feels like progress. They visit his grandmother twice a week. The hospital room becomes a refuge from noise. The older woman asks her about the factory, about safety goggles and lunch breaks and the sound of the line when it runs smoothly. She listens like this matters. It does. You remind him of consequences, his grandmother says one afternoon, eyes bright. He respects that. I remind him of people, she answers. His grandmother smiles. Even better. The first real test comes at a charity gala. The dress fits her without swallowing her. The ring sits heavy on her hand. The room is glass and music and eyes that weigh you before you speak. A man approaches, smooth, amused. So you are the reason, he says, looking her over. Bold choice. She meets his gaze. People are not choices. The man laughs, uncomfortable, and retreats. He sees it all from across the room. When he reaches her, his voice is low. Thank you. For what? She asks. For not letting them reduce you, he says. She considers him. I do not let anyone do that. Another night, a board member corners her near the bar. You must be grateful, the woman says, smiling too sweetly. Opportunity like this does not come often. She nods. Neither does work that pays in dignity. The smile falters. The board member moves on. He exhales, a sound she does not expect. On the drive home, the city glows. You do not need to fight every battle, he says. I am not fighting, she replies. I am standing. He nods, absorbing the distinction. At work, the factory feels different. Managers look away when she passes. Whispers follow. She keeps her head down and her pace steady. A supervisor thanks her quietly for speaking up last week. It matters more than the headlines. At night, the house grows softer. They cross paths in the kitchen. He pours water. She dries a dish. For a moment, neither moves. Tomorrow, he says, there is a press interview. They will ask about how we met. I will tell the truth, she says. We met at work. And discretion too, doesn't. That is not a lie, he agrees. The interview is sharp, the questions loaded. She answers plainly. He does not interrupt. When asked what she changed about him, she pauses. Nothing, she says. People change themselves. The clip runs everywhere. Comments split. He watches the numbers climb and feels something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Later, on the balcony, the air cools. He hands her a coat without thinking. She takes it, surprised. Their hands brush. Neither pulls away fast enough to pretend it did not happen. 30 days, she reminds him gently. Yes, he says. 30 days. Inside, his grandmother watches the replay and smiles to herself. Outside, the city hums, indifferent and alive. The contract remains folded in his pocket, suddenly heavier, as if paper consents when it is losing power. The invitation arrives printed on heavy cardstock, the kind that assumes attendance. A charity gala at a downtown museum. Black tie. Donors, board members, press. The kind of night where reputations are polished and mistakes are remembered. He reads the details once. She reads them twice. This one matters, he says on the drive there. They will test you. They already do, she replies. The museum glows against the night, marble steps crowded with cameras and velvet ropes. Inside, the air hums with money and expectation. She adjusts the ring, feeling its weight settle her nerves. He offers his arm. She takes it. This time, it is not choreography. It is strategy. It is not choreography. It is strategy. They move through the room together. Names and titles ripple outward. Hands extend. Smiles sharpen. A donor asks about expansion plans. He answers. Another asks about her background. Eyes curious, calculating. I work in manufacturing, she says. Quality control. The donor laughs lightly. That is quite a leap. She smiles. So is leadership. The donor blinks, then chuckles. Disarmed. He watches from the corner of his eye, surprised again by how easily she redirects power. The test comes without warning. A prominent patron steps forward, glass in hand, voice loud enough to gather an audience. I hear you have found yourself a conscience, the man says, nodding at her. Must be refreshing. The circle tightens. He feels the room tilt, waiting for his response. Old instincts rise, sharp and fast. He is ready to cut the comment down. She speaks first. Conscience does not arrive by marriage, she says calmly. It arrives when people listen. The patron smirks. Listen to whom? To the people who make your profits possible, she answers. To the workers who show up when no one is watching. Silence spreads, thick and public. Cameras shift. The patron's smile falters. He lifts his glass, retreating with a mutter. The circle loosens. He exhales. You did not have to do that. Yes, I did, she says softly. This was the test. And dense to our grass. They move on, but the moment follows them. Board members approach with careful compliments. A reporter asks her how it feels to influence a billionaire. She answers without flattery. I do not influence him, she says. I remind him. Later, near the stage, a young employee from the foundation approaches, nervous. Thank you, she whispers to her. My father works in one of your plants. She nods, understanding exactly what that means. On the balcony, the city spreads below them, lights stitched together like a promise. He hands her water. His voice is lower now, stripped of performance. You protected me, he says. I protected the truth, she replies. There is a difference. He leans against the railing, thinking. You could have stayed quiet. It would have been safer. I am not here to be safe, she says. I am here to be honest. That was the deal. He looks at her, really looks. The ring. The steady hands, the absence of fear. Something shifts, small but permanent. Inside, his grandmother watches from a table, eyes bright. She claps softly when applause breaks for the foundation's announcement. When he glances her way, she smiles like she knows exactly what just happened. On the ride home, the city passes in reflective streaks. He breaks the silence. You changed the room tonight. She shakes her head. The room was ready. It just needed someone to say it out loud. To start Lee-san, defensive tide of Howers events, defensive events, defensive events, defensive event, defensive, and be parted was, and also how free, Allinson's, and IT. At the house, the staff has retired, the kitchen is quiet. He pours tea, a habit he forgot he had. She sits, uninvited but welcome. Tomorrow, he says, the board will call. They will not like what you did. They will survive, she says. He smiles, brief and genuine. So will I. She stands, touching the ring once more. 30 days, she reminds him. Yes, he says, 30 days. Upstairs, she closes her door and leans against it, breathing out the night. Downstairs, he stands alone, replaying the moment she spoke and the way the room bent toward her. The contract remains where it has always been, unchanged. The difference now is that he is no longer sure who it protects. The day after the gala slows them down. There are no cameras, no donors, no rooms waiting to be conquered. The house wakes quietly, as if it learned restraint overnight. She finds him in the kitchen before sunrise, sleeves rolled, staring at a mug that has gone cold. You are up early, she says. So are you, he replies. They share the space without a script. She pours coffee. He slides a plate across the counter. Toast, slightly burnt. He watches her hesitate, then smile. You burned it, she says. I know, he answers. I am out of practice. She eats it anyway. The board calls mid-morning, just as predicted. He takes the call in his office, door open. She does not listen on purpose, but voices carry. Words like optics and control float down the hall. He does not raise his voice. He does not apologize. When the call ends, he stands there for a moment, hands flat on the desk. They want distance, he says when she appears. From you. She nods. That was always going to happen. They want a statement, he continues. They want me to say, last night was misunderstood. And what do you want? She asks. The question lands harder than any demand. He looks at her, searching for the angle, the cost. He finds none. I want the truth, he says. And I am not used to paying that price. She considers him. Then, do not ask me to lie. I will not, he says. He means it. That afternoon, they visit his grandmother. The hospital room is brighter today. Sunlight spills across the blankets. His grandmother studies his face and then hers, sharp as ever. You look tired, the older woman says to him. I am learning, he replies. She smiles. Good. When his grandmother drifts into sleep, they step into the hallway. The quiet there is different, softer. He leans against the wall, suddenly unsure. I grew up believing control was safety, he says. If I held everything tightly enough, nothing could hurt me. She listens. She does not interrupt. Last night, he continues, I lost control of the room. And I did not panic. She meets his eyes. Because you were not alone. He nods, surprised by the truth of it. On the drive back, rain streaks the windshield. Traffic slows. The city breathes. He turns down the radio. What do you want after 30 days? He asks, not looking at her. She thinks of the factory floor, of the rhythm of work, of the courage it took to speak once and the courage it takes to keep speaking. I want a job that does not ask me to shrink, she says. I want to be heard without borrowing someone else's name. He nods. You should have that. And you? She asks. He exhales. I want to stop being afraid of what I cannot control. They arrive home soaked in quiet. She heads for the stairs, then stops. We should review the schedule, she says. Practical, careful. Tomorrow can wait, he replies before thinking. She studies him, the space between them charged but contained. A walk, she says finally. Nothing public. They walk the block without security. Hoods up against the rain. Neighbors pass without looking twice. It feels anonymous, human. At a corner, she slips on wet leaves. He catches her arm, steadying her. Neither lets go immediately. Boundaries, she reminds him, softly. Yes, he says, just as soft. He releases her hand, slower than necessary. Back inside, the house feels smaller, warmer. He hands her a towel. She thanks him. The simplicity of it lingers. That night, she sits on her bed and removes the ring, placing it carefully on the nightstand. He stands in his doorway across the hall, holding the contract he has not read in days. 30 days was supposed to be a limit. A container. A safeguard. Now it feels like a question. Neither crosses the threshold. Both sleep lightly, aware that something fragile has begun to form in the space the contract never covered. The shift happens quietly, the way real damage often does. It begins with a name he has not heard in a while. A woman from his past, polished, connected, always present at the edges of his world. She appears at a board luncheon 2 days after the gala, seated too close, speaking too easily. She is impressive, the woman says, stirring her drink. Your wife. He nods, non-committal. It is just. She continues, lowering her voice. I worry about you. People like her know how to get close. Especially to men like you. He looks at her then. What do you mean? She smiles as if reluctant. She worked in your factory before this, did she not? She called you a terrible boss in public. Then suddenly she is at your side, wearing your ring. She shrugs. Patterns matter. The words settle like grit. Later that afternoon, an email arrives. Anonymous. Screenshots attached. Old comments from employee forums. A photo of the two of them at the factory entrance weeks ago, cropped tight. A message beneath it reads, "She planned this. She wanted attention. She wanted money." He tells himself it is nonsense. He tells himself he trusts what he has seen. Still, he does not delete the email. That evening, he finds her in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, chopping vegetables with care. The house smells like something warm. Normal. The contrast sharpens his doubt. "We need to talk," he says. She sets the knife down. "Okay." He holds up his phone. "Did you approach me before the contract?" Her eyes flicker, confused. "At work? When I spoke up?" "Yes, to auction in lies." Before that, he presses. "Messages? Posts? Plans?" Her face tightens. "What are you asking me?" He hears himself before he can stop. "Were you trying to get noticed? To force my hand?" Silence drops between them. The refrigerator hums. The question cuts deeper than he intended. He sees it in her shoulders, the way she straightens. "You think I did this for money," she says slowly. "I think," he replies, voice cold now, "that you are very good at appearing sincere. And maimed? Too pressive." The words land wrong. He knows it the moment they leave his mouth. But pride carries him forward. "You embarrassed me publicly. You positioned yourself close. You benefited from the result." She stares at him, wounded but composed. "You asked me to sign a contract. You held my job over my head. And now you are accusing me of manipulation." He does not answer. He cannot. "So this is what you believe of me," she says, "that I calculated my way here." He looks away. "I do not know what to believe." Her hands tremble once, then steady. She reaches for the ring, sliding it from her finger with care. The diamond catches the light one last time. "I will not beg to be trusted," she says. "And I will not stay where I am insulted. I will not stay where I am insulted." She places the ring on the counter between them, right beside the contract he forgot to put away. "The symmetry is cruel. This was always temporary," she continues. "You made sure of that." He opens his mouth, then closes it. The damage is done. She walks past him, steps measured, dignity intact. At the doorway, she pauses. "I kept every boundary," she says quietly. "You did not." The door closes. The house echoes. He stands alone, replaying the conversation. The choice of words. The moment he chose fear over faith. His phone buzzes with a message from the woman at the luncheon. "Just looking out for you," it reads. He does not reply. Upstairs, she packs with precision. No dramatics, no tears where they can be seen. She leaves the ring on the counter and the contract untouched. When she steps outside, the night air hits her like a verdict. She does not look back. Inside, he sinks into a chair he has never used. The contract lies open now, clauses meaningless. 30 days no longer feels like a deadline. It feels like a loss. The truth does not arrive with drama. It arrives with receipts. It begins the next morning, when his legal counsel requests a meeting he did not schedule. The subject line is brief. Anonymous email, verification complete. He listens, without interrupting, as timelines are laid out. The screenshots were edited. The forum posts were copied from another account, older, unrelated. The photograph at the factory entrance was taken by a contractor weeks after the contract was signed. Metadata does not lie. "And the sender?" he asks. His counsel hesitates. The address traces back to a foundation donor. She has a history of similar claims. The name lands hard. The woman from the luncheon. He ends the call and sits in silence, the kitchen still bearing the absence she left behind. The ring is gone. The contract remains, folded where it does not belong. He goes to the factory first. No cameras. No announcements. He walks the floor the way he should have before, stopping where machines hum too loud, where gloves are thin, where people do not complain because complaints cost jobs. Supervisors stiffen when they see him. He asks questions anyway. He listens. He takes notes himself. At noon, he calls a company-wide meeting. The room fills fast. Whispers ripple. He stands at the front without slides, without a script. His voice carries. I owe an apology, he says. To the people who work here, I ignored safety reports. I dismissed concerns. That was wrong. Murmurs swell. He raises a hand. Effective immediately. We are changing protocols. Independent audits. Worker representation. No retaliation. If you speak up, you will be heard. He pauses. And I owe a personal apology. The room quiets. I accused someone of motives she did not have, he continues. I used my power carelessly. I am sorry. He does not name her. He does not need to. The truth finds its way. By evening, the board calls again. Louder this time. He listens, then responds with a sentence that costs him leverage and buys him peace. This is not negotiable. He hangs up and exhales. He finds her address the hard way, through a supervisor who hesitates before handing it over. A modest building. Lights on. A window with a plant he recognizes from the apartment she left. He does not knock at first. He stands there, rehearsing nothing, understanding that words must earn their place. When the door opens, she looks surprised, not relieved. I was wrong, he says immediately. And I am sorry. She does not move aside. I believed a lie because it fit my fear, he continues. I disrespected you. I broke the one thing you did not bargain with, your dignity. She studies him, searching for conditions. She finds none. I did not come to ask you back, he adds. I came to return something. He holds out the contract. It is torn cleanly in half. There is no deal, he says. No leverage. No timeline. If you never want to see me again, I will accept that. Her breath catches. Just once. And the apology? She asks. I gave it, he says, publicly, at the factory. It stands whether you forgive me or not. Silence stretches. The city hums behind him. Finally, she steps back. Not an invitation, not a dismissal. Space. I did not leave because the contract ended, she says. I left because you showed me who you were when you were afraid. He nods. I am trying to be someone else. She looks at the torn paper, then at his hands. That takes time. I know, he says. I am not asking you to hurry. She closes the door gently, not on him, but on the moment. He understands. Later that night, he returns home to a house that feels honest in its emptiness. He places the torn contract in the drawer where power used to live. Across town, she sits by her window, phone quiet, dignity intact. For the first time since this began, the future feels unforced. The redemption is not complete, but it has begun. The days that follow are quieter, and that is how healing announces itself. He keeps his word without asking for credit. The policy changes move forward. Audits begin. Worker representatives are elected. He visits the factory again, not as a spectacle, but as a presence. When someone speaks, he listens. When someone disagrees, he does not punish them. The company notices. So does he. She returns to work on her terms. Not a favor, not a shield, a role with authority, earned. The line feels different when voices carry without fear. She keeps her head high, hands steady, dignity intact. She does not look for him. She does not need to. They cross paths weeks later at the hospital. His grandmother is sitting up today, color returned to her cheeks, eyes bright with mischief. When she sees her, she smiles like a secret kept too long. You look well, the older woman says. So do you, she replies. The older woman reaches for both their hands, placing them together without ceremony. I wanted to see who you were when the contract was gone, she says. Both of you. He starts to speak. His grandmother lifts a finger. Not yet. She squeezes their hands once, then releases them. Now. He turns to her. No audience, no leverage. I am not here to ask for forgiveness, he says. I am here to tell you I changed because of you. And because I wanted to. She studies him, the way she always has. Change shows up in patterns, she says. Not promises. I know, he answers. That is why I will keep showing up. There is no embrace. No dramatic gesture. Just a nod that means the door is not closed. Time does the rest. They meet for coffee, then for walks. Sometimes they talk about work. Sometimes they do not talk at all. The city becomes a place they share without performing. He learns to ask questions he cannot control the answers to. She learns to trust without surrendering herself. On a clear evening, he invites her to the factory floor after hours. The machines are quiet. The space feels honest without the noise. I said I would apologize, he says. He stands in the center of the room, alone, and speaks as if the walls remember. I am sorry, he says again. And I will keep being better. She watches, not to judge, but to witness. He reaches into his pocket and removes something small. Not a ring. Not a contract. A simple note. Folded. I am asking you to choose, he says. No deadlines. No conditions. If you say no, I will respect it. She unfolds the note. It is brief, honest, human. I choose slowly, she says. He smiles. So do I. Weeks later, they return to the hospital one last time. His grandmother sleeps peacefully. A nurse smiles and says she asked for them. The older woman opens her eyes and sees them standing side by side. Good, she whispers. You found the real agreement. Outside, the night air is warm. He does not kneel. He does not present a ring. He asks a question. Will you build a life with me? He says, where neither of us needs a contract to be kind. She takes a breath, feeling the weight of the journey. The cost paid by both. Yes, she says, but only if we keep choosing each other. He nods. Every day. When to him. When to him. The ring comes later. Simple and unassuming. The celebration is small. Friends. Workers. Family. No cameras. No headlines. At the factory, a new sign hangs by the entrance. Safety is respect. Respect is leadership. They stand together beneath it, hands linked, equal at last. Because love that begins as a deal can become real. But only when power steps aside and dignity leads the way.